Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Hello! Awesome! Thank you so much. Have a seat. Have a seat. Happy Monday and welcome to the Social. It's been a busy weekend if you're the new Prime Minister of Canada, because as tensions are rising with U.S. President Donald Trump, new Prime Minister Mark Carney, he's actually on his very first foreign trip as Prime Minister in Europe. So Carney says he hopes to deepen and develop trading ties with two of Canada's strongest and most reliable partners. That would be France and the United Kingdom. So, should the Prime Minister's first trip have been to Europe versus what is the norm, which is the first trip being to the United States?
It's an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think right now we have to remember that although Mark Carney is the Prime Minister, he is not an elected Prime Minister. And I think that's why we're going to see an election called very soon, because I'm sure he wants to be that elected, chosen by all of us, right? So in the meantime, I actually think this is a really interesting gesture, because he's basically saying, or tapping into the anti-American sentiment that's going on right now. And I think he's saying, like, he's a reflection of what we want. We want to see other trading options because things have been so unsettled and unstable. And I think that this gesture is both saying, like, to Canada that we're going to get different eyes, we're going to get different ideas, we're going to get different trading partners. And potentially, if he made his first move to Donald Trump, I feel like that could be spun, as in, look at this guy, he's cozying up. Like, you know what I mean?
Do you think this is him, like, trying out to be the elected Prime Minister?
Like he's on probation for a new job. Yeah.
Like he's sort of being like this, because that makes it a calculated move, right?
It's also calculated in the sense of, like, I feel like, you know how he's like, when you break up with somebody, when you have a breakup, what do you do? First thing you do is you go and you take a whole bunch of pictures and put them on social media so that you look like you've got, like, other options. I think that's what he's doing here.
But that
it's a flex towards Trump.
I totally agree with that, but just also think about it this way. Donald Trump has already made his stance very clear.
Yes.
He's the one that started this fight, and he's gone back and forth. And we've also seen Justin Trudeau try to have a conversation with Donald Trump, and how did that go? Not very well. So if I'm Carney, why am I going to go back and have another cantankerous conversation with this man? Instead, he's known for being a great negotiator. Go and talk to your other possible trading partners. See what you can do and be like, hey, this is what I need. This is what's going on. What do you need? Let's make a deal.
Make some deals.
So then when you eventually have to talk to Trump, you're talking to him from a different standpoint, where you're like, listen,
Empowered.
I have other options.
Yeah.
I've already spoken to them, and this is what I have.
Yeah.
So he's a negotiator. This is just brilliant negotiating tactic.
And it's not just any trading partner. Like, these are our old pals. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like
Also
a signal.
people that Trump is also pissed off.
Exactly. It's true.
Right?
It's true. It's like they're still here for us. Oh, and look, like, we had a relationship with them, AKA in both world wars, before you came along. It's kind of like this. We're putting ourselves on this global stage. Like, we are often defined by our neighbors to the south, but we don't need to be.
We don't need to be. And also, this is a really calculated move because, as you've all said, this is also a signal to not just diversify our trading partners, but this is a signal to Canadians, to all of us. I am on Team Canada. I am on Team Elbows Up. So there's that. But also, I looked at Emmanuel Macron's Instagram this morning. We were actually all together in the meeting, and the French Prime Minister actually put up this photo with Mark Carney, and I want to read what it says.
Happy they are.
So look how chummy and happy they are.
Like a new relationship happening.
Oh my gosh! So it says in French, "Vous avez choisi la France pour votre première visite à l'étranger," which means you have chosen France for your first visit abroad. This is very pointed. It is a great honor, and it highlights the importance of the relationship between Canada and France. Very happy to welcome you, dear Mark Carney. So to me, that's saying something.
It's saying something to Donald Trump.
It's
Like,
saying
you're not
something
the
to
only
Donald
guy.
Trump.
Exactly.
What do you think? We talked about globally what this could look like, or how people globally will perceive Canada with this move. Domestically, do you think Canadians are happy about this?
I like it.
Do you think, like, I'm
like
curious
it.
to see
I definitely feel like
if some people might be thinking, like, maybe, you know, like, let's not forget about China.
Can I just
Let's,
throw?
you know,
Well,
Can I
I think
throw?
you will get all of those, but this is the first step of him saying, listen, I'm going to talk to all of our other possible partners. Donald Trump, have a seat.
But let's
We've already
say-
heard what you have to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me hear what Macron
Let's
has to
go to
say.
our old pals.
Let's
Can
talk to
I
all of our
throw
old
one
pals.
little curveball into this discussion? When we actually look at trade with France, our exports to France are 0.68% of our annual exports, compared to 75 to 80% of our exports that go to the U.S. In other words, France is a drop. It is number 12 in our exporting partners, okay? So are we actually going to France for trade, or are we going to France for something else? And here's where it gets a little ominous, okay?
Wine?
I think, not wine.
Okay, sorry.
Not
Cheese?
wine.
Is it cheese?
I wish.
Wine and
I
cheese?
wish it was wine or cheese.
No.
But we know that Trump is making a lot of threats about making Canada the 51st state. It feels like it could potentially become confrontational. And France is the most powerful member of NATO, militarily speaking. In fact, France is the only EU country that possesses nuclear weapons. Wow. So there is a side of me that says we're not just looking for a new best friend, a new trading partner. I think we're looking for a new protector.
Yeah. Wow. That's what I'm saying. It's a great negotiating contest.
I think.
Yep.
I think.
Wow.
Whew.
Guys,
That's good.
this is exciting. Hey, before we go to break, Mel, I hear you got a royal honor the other day. Will you please tell us everything?
I will tell you, but first I have to show you because
Wow.
this is the King Charles III Coronation Medal that I was honored with yesterday.
Wow.
Somewhere like that. Oh, you guys got pictures of it. Thank you. Control room. Listen, this surprised the heck out of me, and I didn't know where it came from, but it's actually from MP Marco Mendicino's office, and they honor Canadians who have made an impact either locally, provincially, or nationally. And with my podcast, Aging Powerfully with Melissa Grelo, and my advocacy for equity in women's health care, especially in equity in menopause care, I was recognized, which, listen, when I looked at who else was in the room, I was like, girl does not belong here. I don't know what I'm doing
Don't say
here.
that.
But the likes of Larry Tenenbaum and Heather Reisman, who's the CEO of Indigo, and the like. My table mate, David Lockett, he has created this program for at-risk youth and in detention centers, and he's turned around the lives of thousands of young men. Those are like, wow. But I was very honored to be there, and I just want to say thank you to Marco Mendicino for that. And I was there with my mom.
Oh, she must be
Oh my
so
gosh, my mom was a
proud.
puddle, and I got to say there were so many. There's my husband, me and my mom, and my oldest family friend Beverly. It was an honor, and I would just say for this kid of immigrants, it was kind of a full circle moment. I felt very, very proud.
I can understand.
I can understand.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So yes, I will be obnoxiously wearing this to the next gala.
Listen, I would wear it all the time. To bed, I would be wearing that.
Do you get like King Charles on speed dial or like?
Yes, I mean I have been very fortunate to meet King Charles, then Prince Charles, and another potential opportunity coming up soon.
Just stay tuned. That was a hint.
If you could, he's an avid gardener, and his favorite flower are delphiniums. I'm having a lot of trouble growing mine.
Oh my goodness.
Could you just get
you
some,
are not
some
sitting
basic
there with gardening
tips? Just some basic tips, small talk. If you need a way in,
Just do it.
You know what? I will ask it. I'll try to get that on video.
thank you,
just for
Melissa
you.
Grelo.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you for asking.
So Melinda French Gates revealed the pivotal career advice that multi-billionaire Warren Buffett once gave her. He said, quote, find your bullseye of what you're working on and let the other things fall away. So that was a piece of advice. Do you believe in having a career bullseye or?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, you do.
But that's 50-50.
Like whatever comes your way. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you interpret this. The way that I interpreted this is a lot of us have a lot of skills, soft skills as some people call them, but what do you really want to hone in on? And then it's the question of, do you want to be a generalist in your career or a specialist in your career?
Yeah.
And I think therein lies the difference. I think a lot of us are probably generalists, right? You kind of learn how to do a little bit of everything. It's jack of all trades, master at none. But the way I interpret this is, jack of all trades, yes, but then become a master at one. And I think that I think that depends on what stage you are in your career. I think the longer you're in a career, I think it does serve us to become more of a specialist and really sought after. Know that one thing inside and out, and everybody comes to you for that one thing. But overall, I think you've got to be nimble in how you learn, but very good at what you're an expert on.
I love this advice. It's excellent. I just wish I knew how to follow it. Like I've never been that specialist my entire life. I'm the type of person like, oh, this looks cool. Which way's the wind blowing? Oh, look at over there. What's that over there? Oh, there's a painting. I'm going to try painting. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I can't specialize. And I think to my detriment. Like, I think it's wonderful advice, but I don't know how to follow it.
I see.
Interesting. You know what? In the very beginning of my career, I was a journalist, but I was a journalist because I did not have the confidence to say exactly what I wanted to do. And that's when I was like, well, when people are like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be on air. I don't know. I just want to figure out the industry. And to a point, it worked for me because I think there's something that when you learn how to do all the other little jobs, it helps you when you get to the big job. But I had this moment. I was working at a television station, and there's a bunch of us there who were working there, and we were all very young, fresh out of college. And we had a meeting that was called by our VP of News. And he sat us all down and said, hey, we noticed that all of you are angling to get these on-air jobs and producing jobs, but I want to sit down and tell you guys that it's not going to happen here. And if you want to continue working here at all these entry-level jobs, we're very happy to have you. But if you have aspirations to be a producer, associate producer, reporter, anchor, it's not going to happen here. And in that moment, it became so clear to me, my bullseye, because I'm like, I did not go to J school, so this guy can tell me that I'm going to stay here as a journalist.
School.
Journalism school. He helped me kind of hone in and own my voice. I'm like, no, I actually want to become a producer, and I do want to be on air. And if this is what he wants to have us all in this box. 2 weeks later, I put in my resignation. I go, see you later.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, and then I was very focused. And then when I was applying for jobs, no longer did I want to be a journalist. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Went after those jobs. 3 weeks later, I was a producer on a daily show. And I was like, so I feel like that was a kick. It wasn't a push, but I wish every young person who's like unsure and they don't know quite how to say it, it's like, no, have a bullseye. Don't be afraid to say it out loud. It doesn't make you cocky. It just makes you confident. You're going to school, you're putting time into this career.
But younger, can the bullseye, like, instead of being like that, can it kind of be like that?
You can open it to a few things, but don't have it so open because you'll end up working on somebody else's dream.
You know what? It's funny that you say that.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Put that on a T-shirt. I feel like, Cynthia, you were forced into being a specialist.
I was forced into being on air.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it at all, but then it kind of came together. Like, I think both things are true. Like, I've often thought of my career as something like I've been actually planting seeds. So you plant a bunch of seeds and you get ideas and it's like, oh, I'm kind of into this zone, I'm kind of into that zone. Then you water those seeds and you see which ones grow and which ones kind of die. And I think and then you go, at some point in time, you try to harvest. And maybe that's when the bullseye kind of comes in. I didn't like the idea of him saying this in the sense of it sounds very financially motivated. Yeah. Like you hit your targets, and then you get this reward. Whereas I think if you reframe it as like a North Star, I think other people have used that. Like it's like you're trying to follow what's your value system. And when I think back to it, like I went to school initially for film and television to be a screenwriter. I am not a screenwriter, but I am a storyteller. So if that's my sort of North Star, I've been following that all along while planting seeds, because if we've been in this industry long enough, we know that if you don't water a few different plants, and you've only invested in that one,
you're gonna go hungry.
You're gonna go hungry. So
you just brought up a really good question. Didn't you feel like in the very beginning of your career, there are a lot of people who are like, what do you want to do? Or I don't know what you want because you're not being very clear. And I feel like that also held me back for a few years too, because I wasn't very definite with like, actually, this is what I want to do, because I was afraid to say it, and then they didn't take me seriously because I wasn't taking myself seriously.
I think it's easier to know what you don't want to do sometimes.
And maybe that's the way you get there. Maybe that's the way you get there. For sure. Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the complete opposite. Dilly-Dallying. Who's here for it? All right, so Dilly-Dallying for spring, groundbreaking. TikTok is declaring that this season's vibe is all about going outside and just enjoying the nothingness. What do you guys really think about this? Ladies, what do you think?
Well, I feel like, going off of the topic we just talked about, this has been my vibe for, let me check, forever.
Professional dilly-dallyer.
I'm a card-carrying dilly-dallyer. And that's not a humble brag. I think when you dilly-dally a lot, like the line between dilly-dallying and procrastination is actually, it's not very fine. It's very obvious, and I am I think I'm more of a procrastinator than a dilly-dallyer, actually. I revoked my card. I revoked that dilly-dallying card.
The dilly-dallying card, yeah. I wish I had the time. I need 36 hours in a day. I have so much on the go because I have planted so many seeds. My greenhouse overfloweth now, and I don't have enough hours. I wish I had the luxury to dilly-dally because I think it's good for you. I actually think in small doses, it's actually very good for your creativity. I think to nurture your imagination. But if you're a parent, then you know, at least the parent of my child. Oh, it is an Olympic sport, and my daughter wins gold every day.
Yeah.
Dilly-da, honey, you got to get dressed to go to school. Okay, Mom. Half an hour later, looking at the ceiling, the dilly-dally, the dilly-dally.
This is the thing, it's so frustrating with kids, and yet it's a reminder that like we come out just being curious and sort of going where the wind blows and yelling.
School starts at 9.
Yeah.
School starts at 9.
We're all being taught this lesson of like fit into a very corporatized structure. Like you got to do 9 to 5, you got to learn this, you got to learn school and whatever. So I try to channel a little bit more of like cat energy. Right? I feel like cat energy is just sort of like you go around, you have a target, a little bit of a target. It's usually food and affection, and then you relax and you nap and you hang out. I don't think you're a dilly-dallyer. I think you might be. So here,
I think you have to earn. Oh, sorry.
no. You finish yours.
Well, what I was gonna say was, I think you have to earn your dilly-dallying, and I don't know if I earn mine. Like,
you
what
work
I will
every
do.
day.
I do work every day, and on the weekends, like, I have some things that I should be doing. Just get them out of the way so you can dilly-dally.
Dilly-dally,
But I don't necessarily get them out of the way because I'm dilly-dallying.
Because you're procrastinating. But that's where the procrastination comes in?
Exactly, because I think a lot of times it's nice to say, like, oh my God, I earned this dilly-dally session. I earned it. But I don't often earn it. And so what happens is on Sunday nights, I'm like, because I wasted so much time.
But did you waste it?
Well,
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Not all the time. Not all the time. But this past weekend that's fresh in my head,
you did.
I did a lot of dillying and a lot of dallying.
You know when I learned about the importance of dilly-dallying? It was during the pandemic. And I don't want to be insensitive because it was a very rough time, the pandemic, for a lot of people. But for me, my hours were reduced, so I was still working. But all of a sudden, as most of us, we found ourselves with all this extra time. And at first, it was a bit of a panic. But then I was like, oh, I've been like a hamster on a wheel.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden, everything's locked down. So now I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. And then probably about 3 weeks in, I was like, actually, I don't mind this waking up and like, so what are we gonna do today? I took piano lessons. I learned how to cornrow my hair. I cooked. I took walks. I cycled.
Wow.
And I almost liked the lockdown a little too much. And I was like, I'm not in a rush to go back. I like the dilly-dally of waking up and just having this ease of like, no, you don't have to get on this hamster wheel and be like, hustle, hustle, hustle. Well, you should be doing this. You should be doing this. It was like, no.
I mean, is that dilly-dallying though? You weren't really procrastinating. If we think that dilly-dallying is like avoiding the inevitable.
No, I wasn't. Like there was no procrastination. I was waking up and just going with the wind.
Maybe you were floofy-floofying. There's another word for it. I don't know what it is, but it's just more like being like.
It sounds more cat-like.
Exactly, floofy-floofy.
Okay, well then I enjoyed my floofy during the lockdown. I wish I could have more floofy because adulting is hard.
Yes.
Adulting is hard, man.
Yeah.
Every day.
A writer for The Walrus, Catherine Bradbury, she was on our show not too long ago, shared a personal story about being called out for body shaming herself. Something she didn't even realize she had been doing until her niece pointed it out. So do you catch yourself sort of shaming your body as you get older?
Yeah, I'm in a different stage in my life, but most definitely I'm embarrassed to say that in my 20s, when I was probably my smallest, I was always body shaming myself, always saying, if I could just lose 5 pounds, I'd be perfect for summer. Meanwhile, I was a size 2, but I was also walking around very proudly kind of going, I'm a size 2. I'm a size 2. And I used to think like 35 was old. You remember when you were young, you thought 35 was old, and you get to 35, you're like, 35 is not old. But I imagined that at 35 that I would have fallen apart and I would be overweight. I don't know what I thought, but I thought negatively about my body. So I was always giving myself a hard time. Jump to, I've been taking some tennis lessons. It happens every Sunday. And yesterday I had a lesson. And I'm the oldest person in my class. And I smoked every single one of the people in my class yesterday.
Yes.
It was so good. But then I got in my car and I was like, the 20-year-old me would never imagine that I'd be this strong, this capable, and still feel exactly the same how many decades later. And I realized, especially after taking care of my dad in the last few years of his life, how important it is for your strength and your health and not about the number that is on the back of that dress. That does not matter. But it took me a while to get there. But I did smoke them, just in case you didn't hear me. Yeah, it felt good.
Yes, it felt good.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Well, for me, it changes. I think we all have that story. We talked about it in the morning meeting where you look back at pictures of yourself and you remember negative self-talk at that age, and then you look back today and you're like, man, I was a smoke show. What was I dogging on myself about? It changed when I had a daughter because you realize you have to become super aware.
She's listening.
You can't be talking like that to yourself or saying negative things about your body because she's watching and she's listening. I've been really aware of that in my house because I don't want to pass on that baggage. Society has done a number on women. It still does a number on young women, but as we age, it's even worse. And you guys know I'm all about the menopause space, and so now I think the shift for me is strong is sexy, strong is beautiful. The idea that this body, I need to take care of it, and that's how I talk around my daughter. I got one body to get me through one life. So sometimes she'll see me working out, and I'm like, you know why mommy works? You know why she works out? Get on my back, and I can zoom up the stairs with her on my back. I said, that's why I work out. And that is a different message than, oh, my arms, I have bat wings and I have saddlebags. If I do that, it's like I got to catch myself because I don't want her to take on that garbage.
This is not a rhetorical question, but you said something and I can't let it go because I find it very interesting. When you said that it's even harder for older women, like, do you really feel that way? Like it's harder?
I think we are a youth-obsessed culture, period.com. And I think as we get older, whether it's just from age and things start to sag and there's cellulite and there's the menopause that they call it, where we all start gaining, we all look like pears because menopause does. The culture has words for us, and it is, you are irrelevant, and that's why a lot of women start to feel increasingly invisible as we get older, because culture doesn't want to see that. I don't
know what's wrong with me, and I'm nervous to even say it to you guys or to you, but I don't feel that.
I'm so happy for you.
And it's been for a couple of years. I don't know what's happened. Like, even in a fitting.
How do you feel?
You know how we have fittings and a dress doesn't zip up? I'm not like, oh my God, the dress doesn't fit. There's something wrong with me. No, it's a stupid dress. There's something wrong with the dress. I don't know.
But were you always that way?
No, but I'd be lying if I said I was always like that.
But she's also, what you've told me before is your mother did a great job, and I'm not blaming my mom, I love you, Mom. But like, your mom never focused on that. So you didn't embody that. Like, I think that makes a huge difference. What messages did you get from your closest female family members when you were growing up about the way that they spoke about their body?
And I don't want to make it sound like I'm belittling anyone who does have those issues. I can understand it. I think any woman would be lying if they said they had never experienced it. It's just in the last couple of years, similar to you in a sense that I see it as a vessel, as this thing that allows me to do all of the other things. And concentrating on what it physically looks like, it's such a waste of time. I don't know. It's like I haven't put any, and it's not that I've given up.
It's a good place to be, but it takes a while for some of us to get there.
But I think you have to actually, it's a practice. Like, I think for me, I hear what you're saying, and I did grow up with like everyone, my grandmother, my mother, everybody was constantly self-critical. Like, they weren't necessarily criticizing us, but you're observing that constantly. That like, oh my God, I can't believe this, touching themselves, like the way that you would go to a shopping experience, I would see that, absorbing all of that. So it's taken an effort for me to get to this place, and I'm with you. Like, I feel like I'm the least critical of myself now, but every once in a while, I'll catch myself. I'll catch a look in the mirror, and I'll notice a difference, and my immediate go-to thought is something like negative, and then I refuse to talk to myself that way. My body, I believe, is listening. And an older friend of mine once said, like, you know, what the heck would you be doing insulting your arms? Your arms are just trying to, like, help you do stuff.
It allows you to do great stuff.
I also feel like I also am starting to really absorb women who are in their bodies in their older age, and I find it so intensely sexy compared to women who are actually quote unquote fitter and who are constantly like I've seen both. So I think embodiment has nothing to do with, to your point, a number on this dress or on the scale, and it has to do with like what is exuding from the inside.
It gives you a lot more time to dilly-dally is what you're saying. Good one, Jess.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.